Good grief, man. I'm having Ascension itchies and, Ascension aggravation. I've been really struggling for the last hour or so, maybe a little bit longer, that with itching, intense itching, my feet, and my hands. And my hands are just a mess. The humidity is way down. And lizards like me, we need our hydration, and my hands are cracked and splitting and stuff, and they've been very painful today. And I'm thinking, what can I do that I can let go of that, because it has come up in the past. It's not like the first time it's ever happened that I've had these symptoms and the flu and that kind of a thing. However, right at this time, it's really been just really chapping me, that itch, and I can't seem to find, just the right tool for the job. And of course, there's the element of throwing in there, well, if you hadn't thrown away the back scratcher, you'd have the appropriate tool. And it's not mine, I wasn't sure what I was going to be talking about. And here we are, that energy, and there we go. I acknowledged it, and that itching in my feet has almost stopped. It's almost stopped. That wasn't me. That wasn't mine. That's not energy that belongs to me. It's, not completely cleared from my body by any stretch. I can still feel it, in my shoulders. But my feet were just, that's why I was walking, was to kind of, itch them or scratch them a little bit as I walked. And it's when I started to address it and say, I'm having that feeling, it's almost gone away completely in my feet. The circulation in my body is way stimulated, etc. So of course I have my human form, and there's medicine and there's miracles, etc. However, there's a baseline of fundamentally a physiological process, and then wrapping quantum crazy stuff there with it, and try to get a diagnosis for that from any kind of medical establishment. And what do Ascension symptoms look like, or whatever anybody would call it. It's quite remarkable that many of the symptoms that come up for me personally, once I absolutely call them out, ask them, what can I do? What is bothering you that I can fix? And the itchies are actually kind of growing a little bit in my left shoulder of, what is that? And is that even me? Is it mine? My physiological body is, itchy. However, the energy that is propelling that is not me. It's clearing out of my body and clearing out of my knowledge, if you will, out of my body, my cellular body. My DNA is being restructured, etc. Everyone's is all the time, as we put in new ideas in the sublime, and we can, cause our energy to kind of decay also with declining positivity. It's really truth that I find most helpful, not whether I say the F word or not whether or not I regard myself as a good Christian or anything like that. It's a matter of getting to the truth, because if I was too shoved into one of those paradigms where I just had to believe a certain understanding, then I would never think to ask, feet, why are you itching? And is that energy even mine? Is it clearing because it just needs to be clearing out of my body, and it's going to feel, funky and weird, and I'm going to try to do the flamingo thing, and it's not my energy. My body has to put that into some sort of resolution and harmony. And it happens much faster when I get to the truth and the facts, just the statements of what is true about the situation, is that my feet are itching intensely, almost painfully so, and I'm having this and I'm having that, and okay, well, let's refine. I'm all about, step up my own game. If I'm going to have a competition, it's going to be with me, and none of that outside baggage that would drop in as negativity that is shaming, blaming, or judging me, that's got a should in it or a but, then please shut the butt up, it's best for me to remember, have those kind reminders from celestial beings and, the astral realm that would remind me of, oh, ask the right question or address it this particular way, perhaps. And I'm investigating and finding out different corners of my own house, if you will, my own energetic address, my own energetic stamp. And the more I know every part of me and what I am all about, the more I can actually do a body scan and say, is that even mine? And as an empath, a channeler, high sensitive, etc., I have to be super careful with energetic, I don't want to say psychic attack exactly, energy that's just kind of out there in the quantum field, batting around and looking for a place to resolve the cord where there's tension, and it's going to need to resolve. It can't resolve in my body as somebody else needs to, and I'm going to resolve it for them. Not like that. I used to be just wide open portals, everywhere, just, oh, come on, and be nice feast for energy vampires, and then in fact return the favor with that old cycle that it really just doesn't work. It's a quantum field that's got decaying energy in it, and it's going to dense out, and not really work through my body very well. And I used to be quite unwell and, unhealthy, and weighed quite a bit, over 300 pounds at one point in my life, and just foggy all the time, and, somnolent. I couldn't stay awake, and no energy. And those are questions that would have never even remotely come across my mind to ask my body specifically. These are all practices that, in New Thought, etc., and Ascension, and, higher consciousness, 5D, and going on into, beyond 3D, and leave things as uncomplicated as possible. If I hadn't already started there, if I'd started from an even more conservative point, I wouldn't have been willing to listen to oracle readers or tarot readers or ask my body outside that paradigm of, clinical mental health or whatever. And I just started going off the charts with, how about I just take command of my body, my vessel, and I'll purify that the best way that I'm guided to do. And that has worked very well for me. True. Honestly, it really has. And then taking that keen intuition and saying, okay, I've narrowed it down to, I'm clearing. This is the whole process, right? And it's a huge process this week, especially because it being Good Friday. Sunday, today is a big day of betrayal. I'm feeling itchy in my fingers again, and pain in those little cuts and stuff that they haven't healed for weeks. And as the weather has been drier and less humid, that's part of the physiology that factors in of, am I going to call in a great miracle and not have these, skin things going on, or shall I get a little beyond believing that quantum Santaville or quantum Santa make a wish list, and there's a way to say a bunch of positive affirmations or tithe a certain way or do this certain practice. It just, nothing was consistently working except for me to go through my own system and ask those questions. And so, what is this about? Is it even mine? And this is in fact mine indeed. It's something that happens routinely right there. And I could spend a lot of time, that helped to ease it up right there. I could spend a lot of time with looking back in that idea of reincarnation and the Akashic records, etc., and find out that there's something linked to this particular thing in that lifetime and whatever. And I haven't found that to be anywhere near as helpful or as streamlined an approach as just to say, hey, what's that about? What do you have to say to me that I need to hear? What's the teaching in this? because I don't need to have a hawk come flying by or a spider, stand in the middle of the floor and defy. I don't have to do it that way. I don't have to do it the Oracle way. I don't have to do it the New Thought way. I don't have to do it the Southern Baptist way. It's a matter of, for me and what I'm all about efficiency, baby. I'm all about efficiency. How can I do this the most streamlined approach? Because I got stuff to do besides be baggy and itchy, and I'm ready to finish clearing and get lost and get off of me, and that I can move on with my life and be the dynamic, active individual that I can be and that I am. Just so happens with the closing down of some, pretty big cycles in my life, just this week, ironically, Easter week, right? That it's brought up a lot of the last minute, last ditch, I guess, we're gonna really, and resistance, probably resistance, because kind of it would be like the rats running from the sinking ship, except we're down to the ship is just now going down, and there's the final purge, perhaps. I'm not really sure. I'm back to itching that one little thing again. And how long would I like to spend, I wonder, would it be better for me to investigate a past life having to do with this finger, or shall I just say, what has this got to do with me getting message for me from my higher self, from my higher consciousness, from my astral beings who support me in those realms, on the earth, and how I move forward in practicing, my magicating and teaching others to regulate their flow. That's what it is. Thank you. Is that it helps to discipline the flow of the energy, because that last purge of the rats running from the ship, I don't want to have. It's not good for me to have a big whoosh wave of last minute, I don't want to give up, whatever the resistance is. It tends to rear up and get pretty intense, and I want to streamline it and not have that be so intense. If I could get that to a better level of comfort, etc., it means that I've healed that much faster, whatever that emotional part of me or energetic deficit is in me. It means that I've cleared it more efficiently, and I don't have to go down to the basement to go to the attic, and then ultimately get up to the rooftop and find out, oh yeah, I got wings. I think I'll just take off like hawk who came by. Hey, hi, how you doing? So intuition guides me, throughout the day, hours and hours and hours at a time of lucid dreaming, and, sort of like walking meditation, except that I'm, doing things around my house, and it's, very, very, very concentrated effort. And I listen to quite a bit of binaural beats music, a lot of chakra clearing music, things that have certain frequencies, and I bring my neurological understanding and my medical background as a paramedic, and what I took from nothing in quantum world, because physics I could never get to, science, etc. I always thought I was too dumb, can't go to that class because I'm not smart enough, and can't really do math very well, have some visual learning processing disorders, and autism. It's dorking out right here, loud and clear. Those are neurological things, and they get in my way a little bit. It's the way I'm prepackaged. It's my nervous system, it's my operating system, and so best for me to work within that intelligence of my comms device. Probably best for me to square it up with what I have in reality with that system in me, and moving it to a higher frequency. And the all of me is not going to all arrive there. If you think about all the many, many dimensions possible, and all of those entanglements on a quantum field, good Lord, I mean, do we have anyone in quantum world who can, parlay their science understanding into, the lifetimes and Akashic records, etc. And there may be people who can. It's just that for me, that's not the most synergistic route for me to take. I will go science nerd out entirely and get into the quantum physics of stuff now as an adult, and I still can't do math. That's just my operating system. It just numbers look funny to me. Then if it's visually disturbing, that's going to automatically put a roadblock in the communication between me, my higher self, and anything that's going on in my body. And good grief, try to wrap that into communicating with other human beings or communicating with animals, communicating with anyone. If my channel is already, my vessel is not quite Catherine Coleman, far-right evangelical 70s preaching woman, if my vessel isn't clean, I'm gonna have not the greatest ability to marry that up my intuition with my conscious awareness and then clear all that to, in fact, purify my vessel. And I might get hung up somewhere worrying about my itchy fingers and looking it up and finding out that, yep, it's confirmed. And what does it confirm for me to know something and I already kind of know it? Then I'm wasting my time basically practicing, a gravity drill that, yeah, I know how gravity works already. I want to learn a little more in the quantum field than that. So what does that all mean to me now, 16 minutes into it? That it's pretty much resolved in terms of the itching. It is, and the cuts and the dry and what have you, I have no idea symbolically or what the spiritual meaning is, etc. Nothing so far has come up whenever I say, what the heck is that? Other than I think it's kind of interesting. I don't know that I'll go on record for believing that I can, call this the final answer, as if there was one final answer. However, I did notice at some point when I was looking at that today and thinking, gosh, the one, has been here for quite some time. And I put coconut oil on my face and, into my hair a little bit. And because that's what I have. And I threw away all the makeup I had and all the lotions and everything and have gone, kind of a la naturel, just to totally sever, that past idea and that whole past identity of me helps to collapse that in quantum fields that ripple back and mean that the intense itching will last, an hour or two versus a week or two. Or I won't make it to out of the gate to where I'm really in that winner's circle for me, because I am not moving through those paradigms and collapsing, decaying energy out, etc. It won't happen nearly as quickly in Earth time, and it will drag on to my body. And there's just, we don't all have time to sit around working on our sublime and our, dedicated spiritual practice. We just don't. And not everybody's interested in doing that to begin with. For me, that's what I'm passionate about. I want to know every single, nook and cranny of my energy. And that's the fun and the surprise and the wonder, is that it makes it much easier to deal with this. And it seems very related to, the cuts that Jesus would have sustained. I think I forgot to say that a few minutes ago when I mentioned it. Was that one in particular? It was like, that seems like it's, I thought that didn't he get cut in the side or something? I mean, there's always some gruesome crucifixion pictures that have always been quite disturbing to me, but that's the image that came to my mind, was that seems like representative of. And I actually asked that already, that, that's a sense of betrayal there to me. That's a sense of very deep betrayal, and it doesn't heal. And, I thought, well, as I closed down a cycle from my old life this week, a couple of days ago, I mean, huge cycles, slamming shut, that this will heal now. And it really hasn't. In fact, even gotten worse and puffier and what have you. And I'm slathering on coconut oil and, using what I have. And that's one little spot where it just hasn't quite resolved yet. I haven't found that disharmony. I haven't ratted it out yet to find out where is that tension of and it's not resolving, and it's just going on and on and on and on and on, and that will drive me crazy. Dun, 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 dun. That has to resolve. It has to resolve, otherwise it's going to hang in my ear, and even if I walk away 3 years from now, that energy was still put out there and left as a hanging chad somewhere. And if it continues to build momentum in a collective idea, in a collective consciousness, in a wave of, who knows, Sagittarius or Leo or something like that, it all has to be perceived, in my particular opinion. It's all perception, and would just do better to be looking at perception very closely and how I'm gaining knowledge through what lens, through what filter, and then not get hung up anywhere for very long in knowing that, another way for me to go and investigate that little corner is not to be afraid of it, first of all, to know that everything within me, it gives me all the tools I need. I haven't any need for a tour guide into the cosmos for me to be able to do the job. I'm quite qualified, and so is everybody else. It's just that me personally, it's my mission to work with other people to teach them, hey, what's the most streamlined approach that you can take toward your own body's healing, your own mind and your own emotions? How can those things integrate into a more whole person who's living more holistically, in their humble opinion, not in the humble opinion of others? Because if I had gone specifically on must do things this way, there are so many steps that I was delayed. Everything I was ever told about journaling and, talk about it and do this. And it really could have been much simpler, and, really should have been. Should is don't let anybody should on you. It could have been, and in theory should have been, that was just a matter of I have the diagnosis, which means I take things very literally, and there was so much confusion all the time with wrong equation, of I'm hearing wrong equation, seeing something happening with feet that's not congruent with mouth, and then I'm going to return the favor with knowing that I feel a real dissonance, and it's not going to resolve ever, and I'm just piling up more bad debt, karma, if you will, and then janky decisions that are just far out in an extreme somewhere, that's even more. And so as that's all clearing, how's it clearing? Why is it clearing? Is it related to this? Should I take a tour? I don't want to waste my time, because I'm more interested in what I find out with the good stuff, the fun stuff, the stuff that, I don't care to know what the trauma is on that significance. I have to be aware of it from a medical standpoint if I don't want to, lose my finger in my life to gangrene or, sepsis, that kind of thing. So I like to keep things in perspective, that I would do well to discover the facts and the truth. And fact and truth, how about the truth? And look at it truly from a purely scientific and quantum understanding, quite often, literally, to take the emotions out of it entirely. And I don't know that someone with autism has a better capability of doing that. I can look like I am just completely lacking compassion or concern or care, and it isn't that. I'm able to split out and say, yeah, this isn't the time for the emotion. This is the time for, clinical assessment of truth. What's true about the situation is I need to be aware any point where I'm going to have, susceptibility to foreign invasion of germ, etc. Because if I worried about every little quantum possibility and then prep for the positive affirmation to cancel out what might happen, or I'm worrying, I spent my whole life, trying to jam and cram me and my frequency through other people's understanding of their frequency and me. And boy, growing up with those inconsistencies, I didn't know whether I was coming or going, and I would notice that and then be like, I would absolutely notice and go, okay, I wonder what that is, and I wonder if I should do this, and if I did that, and I've got to just stop and get right here in the now of the know of the flow and start talking about things from truth, principle and truth understanding, and get more gravity on that, get water levels on that, what are the forces of nature and how are they responding, and find out, oh yeah, I need to just watch this. And then as I'm answering those very truthful questions, and they are solid, they're going to have a very firm answer. You cannot deny what the principles of gravity are. You just can't. And you can't split an atom without there being a certain response. And for every excuse me, it's funny, never mind. I guess I'm really struggling for every, and you're seeing it live and in Technicolor of, nope, we're not going to discuss that right now. Go back here. And now I've lost my place entirely. See how easy it is? And pick up, okay, we're on to here. That the perception and what it is for me, my work to do, is it forgiveness work? Is it this? The now, that by pulling it into the now and answer those very, what is sort of like scene safety or scene management. As a former paramedic, when I arrived on a scene, especially an MCI, a multi-casualty incident, and if I think of my body as running an MCI, that when I'm arriving on a scene, I need to start assessing. I only have so many resources that are available to me. I only have so much body, let's be for real. I mean, honestly, in the principle of quantum field where all things are possible, they certainly are. Now, what are the F.E. Trinkerton odds, seriously and logistically and legitimately? What are the odds that I'm gonna grow a new finger if I just decide I don't wanna mess with this one anymore? The potential of it, bursting up with infection, I'll just go ahead and cut it off and it'll grow back. That's why those absolutes in the absolutely wrong places. I want to open up, and expand on those questionable black-white areas that we sometimes get to very quickly, and then lock it down in the grays. And I find that humans, we're very good at getting gray and what really can be answered with some high and tight questions of yes and no, and gravity type questions and answers. Quantum answers, and the non-disputable, and then segue that into those gray things where we have this black and white. There really should be some gray, and open the door and open it all the way for explore that a little bit more, and then put the black white on stuff that's just all over the place with opinion and judgment and discernment is a great word. It's the best one so far that I've come across, and it's really how do I vibe with that? Is it vibing me in a way that feels like it's good and it's uplifting and it's really helping me to maintain my growing and exploding out there in the universe consciousness and my awareness, because I don't want to stagnate. I want to always be growing and knowing as I'm moving out of the idea entirely of it's my house, it's all of outer space, I've got a lot of places I can go, and think of it as, the now of exploding into the creative consciousness. And it doesn't even have to be any discussion of ascension or religion or politics or anything other than, some weird lady who, babbles on about weird stuff that not many people in, huge circles would even remotely think to discuss these kinds of topics with me, much less tell me their opinion, because it seems too weird or too bizarre, or we wouldn't be willing perhaps to think about, why wouldn't you consider, what would be the harm in considering all those options after you've arrived on the scene and gotten scene safety and understand your resources. Put things into perspective and context. What is going on in reality, in 3D? What is reality saying to me? Because the quantum field will in fact give me some exchange. If I'm putting out a wrong equation, I'm going to get a wrong equation back, or an imbalance, the same thing. If I'm coming at something with an imbalance, it's going to greet me with an imbalance, because for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And go quantum with stuff and then think of it from that perspective and wrap emotion into it. It's quite complicated. It sounds like, what the, And it just flows for me, and that it keeps me busy solving puzzles, in my head, not, the same Rubik's Cube from 1980 something. Not that. That's kind of boring and derivative, and aren't we on to something more than that? And old paradigms are like old Rubik's cubes. That's boring. It's, it's outdated to still be prejudiced or to still have bias about, gender equality and et cetera, et cetera. And so those things kind of wrap me up with, why I would feel led to look up the symbolism of cricket or what have you, and not so much about, I don't care about healing my body or if I find a way to get rich and, alchemy for the sake of I'm trying to reach abundance. And for me, abundance is, I live in a home at the moment that has barely any furniture or nothing in it because I'm limited in my days of being here after, shutting down my whole entire life that was, not my best life to be ever lived under that paradigm. And it's coming to a close. I have to be out by May 1st. Cool, groovy. Well, we're going to be slamming and cramming and jamming pretty hard then. For the last few days, particularly as that was coming down, and all of those quantum exchanges and entanglements have, some of them are really taken a minute to, we're not going to give up. We're going to keep pushing it forward, pushing it forward. And somebody has to bring the equation something different. Otherwise, it's just staying in that stagnation, and the energy will continue to decay. And it's not pleasant, and then you're losing the momentum of that quantum wave. And so I see 9:32. I guess it's about that time. Is it always about that time to say it's a lot of information to have zooming around in the outer space of my inner space right there, and yet it's also it's fun. It is fun. It's annoying to have a human body that has some pain and some aches, and and I do. And as I've been detoxing, I've been going through flashes of the emotions that would normally be associated with some of that stuff that I am aware of, and excuse me, and some of it, I have no idea what it is. I just know that's not mine because I'm pushing that envelope in my own understanding of where am I willing to go with this? What am I willing to believe? What wouldn't I be willing to believe, and why? And so I seek out lots of different sources of information. And you'll find me in quantum nerd world for 3 weeks, and then, I'm off to Oracle in shamanism and, this or that. And I can read about the Hayuka Indian and be fascinated for 36 minutes, and then I'm done. So there's a lot of different places for me to be understanding, and it's all really just a reflection of how I'm seeing and viewing myself in that quantum lens, and how it's being reflected back to me, as long as I don't get hooked up in the entanglement with myself and energetically of my emotion, or heaven forbid, hanging up in the collective consciousness of pain and miserable feelings of, that just are scared and hurting and traumatized, etc. That's whole collectives of understandings that, getting hung up in the nerdy science part of it. That's where I start whenever it starts getting unclear. Let's go back to the nerd world with that of what is the truth about that? What's the truth principle about that? Let's get a little bit of water leveling on that. What is it? E equals MC squared, tell me about that, and then allow that flow of the no to bring my emotions in, and then all of me continues to grow. So with that, it's almost 33, and most of the time I'm chattering on, and so this time I'm gonna wait and see, can I get there? 33, 29, 31, 2, and 3.